Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to do something different than what I usually do, and that was I wanted to do a video on a book review. And so I hope that you like this series because I absolutely love to read, and I think it would be really cool to be able to share my favorite books with you. If this is something that might interest you, let me know in the comments below if this is a topic that you would like to see more of. And so for today's video, I wanted to talk to you about a specific book that I sadly don't have the physical copy of because I read it from the library and I had to return it back on Tuesday. And it was a race to finish it in the 3 weeks because I waited months for this book. And the wait list is months long if I wanted to get it back in order to physically hold on to it to show you guys. And that is the book called Medicine Wheel for the Planet by Dr. Jennifer Grenz. And so this book honestly changed my perspective on so many different things. It was so good. I rarely read a book where I want to take notes from what I've read about it, and this book I took a lot of notes on, and so it would have been cool to be able to show it to you here. But I also love using the library because I can read such a wide range of books for free, and then of course I'm not over consuming and keeping them at my house. And so of course I must plug the local library, so you should definitely check it out and see if you can get this book because it's amazing. So there's a million different things that I love about this book. The first is that she's Canadian, so you get that unique Canadian perspective that doesn't come very often. The second is she's an ecologist, and so she's trained in invasive species and managing different lands. The third is that she's Indigenous, and so this is a totally different perspective than a lot of authors that write in the nature and biology sphere. And the last one is that she's a woman, and again, this is another thing that is different because a lot of these books are written by men, and so there's very much one specific perspective that you're getting when you're reading all of these books. And so for me, I really loved that this was from a woman's mind and a woman's voice, and also from an Indigenous perspective. And the honest truth is that I don't read, this might be actually the first book I've ever read from an Indigenous author. And I own a second book that I'll do a review on later that it just inspired me to go on and read this book. And I realized that I'm not putting enough Indigenous perspectives into any of the knowledge that I'm consuming. And so I learned a ton from this book and wrote notes about it. And I'm definitely going to delve further into finding more Indigenous authors because it just changed so much for me. And so the book is set up according to the medicine wheels. So they're discussing north, east, south, west. And so there's 4 different parts to the book, and they're all a journey on her learning about ecology, more so from a Western colonizer perspective. Well, she's learning more about her Indigenous roots and talking with elders and recognizing that all of the training that happens in ecology is one very specific way, and it's not the same way that all of her ancestors did it. And I just found this so interesting. There were a lot of new terms that I learned in this book that I hadn't heard of before, and it was so interesting to hear about her finding her roots again, especially with the history of what's happened in Canada here with our Indigenous populations, with residential schools and all of that when the colonizers came to Canada. And so one of the first things that she talked about that I had no idea that happened was that her family, in order to avoid residential schools, pretended that they were South American, Central American. And that was, I guess, their version of hiding in plain sight to keep their children, which the idea that these children were stolen from these people and converted to Christianity and all of the horrors that they went through. But I had no idea that there were Indigenous people who lied and pretended to be a different culture in order to keep their family together and keep their kids together. And so, of course, the horrors of residential schools are vast, and there's so much history behind it. But this was a new piece of information to me that this was something that families had to do to cope, to stay together. And so that was the first thing that I learned about in this book that was new Canadian history to me. And so I really appreciated learning about that because then I can spread this knowledge further as well. And then, so it's really talked about now with all of the wildfires happening around Canada, but we talk about how the native populations would manage the forest with controlled burning, and had we continued to follow the ways that they manage forests, that our forest fires might not be as severe. Of course, climate change is involved with this, but without proper forest management, we are experiencing these really massive wildfires that are killing so many people and damaging thousands of homes. And so I know that this is a thing that we talk about a lot, that the Indigenous did a better job of managing the forest and that settlers are scared of fire and so we avoid doing it. But she talks about the idea that the wild or the wilderness out there is only considered wild to settlers and colonizers, because in actuality, the Indigenous population has been managing forests and in more ways than just controlled burns, but rather moving salmon to new waterways if it's required, or planting certain tubers and bulbs in places for food, and building a version of essentially a food forest, which is another big thing that's become popular amongst colonizers now, is to build a food forest. And meanwhile, this is actually Indigenous knowledge that's been carried on for thousands of years. And for some reason, I know about the forest management and the forest fire management, but when I read about the concept of wild and wilderness is just a term that we use because we didn't recognize that Indigenous people were actually managing the forest. It was like my brain could not compute. It was like it couldn't put two and two together. And then all of a sudden you're like I just didn't know this was a thing, and obviously this would be a thing. And so to me, that was such an interesting portion of the book, that it just it brought my wildfire management to this concept now, to realize that there was so much that they were doing that we never acknowledge, or history doesn't acknowledge, or books don't acknowledge, or our history, all of it, we just don't acknowledge it, and I never thought about it. And so to me, this was such a good portion of the book where I was like, oh crap. So this has been, I really, really enjoyed that it brought this to my attention. So the next terminology that I'd never heard of is called back to Eden gardening. And so this is a theory about how for Christianity, I'm not religious, so I might butcher this, but Christianity or Catholicism believes in the Garden of Eden. And so a lot of what we do in the gardening world is the concept of trying to bring land back to what the Garden of Eden looked like. And so I've done just the smallest amount of reading on this because it's such a new term to me. But this was something that the book brought to my attention that I'd never heard of before. And she suggests that a lot of training in ecology and the way that we operate functions around this back to Eden concept. And so I just thought that that was really interesting, and plan to do a lot more research on what that really means, because I would have never thought that there was a religious aspect that is tied to the gardening world. But I'm also not surprised, because it's because of the way that history has been with settlers and colonizers, and how important religion was, that it would be part of this. It was just such a surprise to me. So it's something that I want to look into more. And then a really big topic for her was the concept of how she was always having to pull out invasives. And she had a specific mandate to go and find this one plant, and it was labeled as bad and natives are good, and how it isn't necessarily that black or white, that not all plants are just good and have only this one trait to them, and plants are bad and that's their only trait. And as she's pulling out different invasives, not thinking about the consequences for the rest of the animals and insects around. And so she's coming back to this concept that she was pulling out an invasive blackberry bush, but then saw that there's pollinators and the bees love it and they're pollinating it, and it provides food for the wild animals that live in her area. And then it also provides food for her kids when they want to go pick the blackberries. And just that it's not quite as black and white as saying this invasive blackberry is bad and there's nothing redeeming about it, and that natives are the only good thing. And so it's just an interesting concept that she was learning through her elders and talking to people within the different communities about how everything isn't just to say this one specific listing, but that you need to understand the plant and how it operates within the entire ecosystem. And this one really was like, I was so surprised, was the concept of, are these plants medicine to animals? And I just never thought about this before. Perhaps a plant is invasive or on the verge of being invasive, but what if it has medicinal properties for animals, the specific animals that are in that area? So she didn't provide a very specific example, but imagine that there's a plant out there that we consider invasive, but actually is like a painkiller for deer or something like that. And I never, even in the terms of invasive and non-invasive or plants in general, I don't know why I never thought about the fact that certain plants out there are medicine for animals, and that obviously animals are smart enough to know hey, whenever I eat the bark off this tree, it makes me feel better. Or if I can rub my body up against this one specific plant, it helps with an open wound or something. And it just never crossed my mind. And so she's learning all these things on her journey and talking to elders, and they're asking her these questions or suggesting these things. And she's now teaching me in this book. And it was such an eye-opening epiphany to think that I've never once thought while I'm pulling weeds out of my garden or in my lawn and saying hey, this doesn't belong here, how it actually can benefit the biodiversity in my garden. And it's totally going to change how I perceive things going forward. And so she makes this one specific statement that I wrote down. And so she says that Eden ecology is transactional, while Indigenous ecology is reciprocal. And so this was something that I felt was really important. So in Eden ecology, the transaction is good and bad, remove and keep, versus the Indigenous ecology is all about how everything works together, how the water works with the land and the insects work with the animals, and the reciprocity of doing all of that work. And I just really enjoyed that statement that she said in there, so I made sure to write it down so I could have it for later. And then I'm actually going to read these notes to you guys because I'm not going to be able to memorize them. But there's an entire section of the book where she talks about how she wants to change the language in ecology into having a more Indigenous perspective. And she makes this clear in the book, is that she's not trying to change the way that we do ecology to say oh, the Indigenous way is better than the current way. And it's not about one versus the other, or one's better than the other, or a ranking or a hierarchy, but rather that there's a place for both of them in the room together to make things better and work better together. And I think that's really, really important, that she's not trying to erase what is currently happening, but rather add on to and make it more comprehensive and cohesive. And so one of the things that there was one section of the book where she's trying to change the language. So for example, the word restoration, she wants to change to healing. We're trying to heal the land back to where it was when the Indigenous were caring for it to begin with. We're not, there's nothing to restore to, but rather to heal. And so for another example is saying that we're going to return it back to its natural state. She believes, and I believe along with it, that when you say changing it back to its natural state, that means that there was nothing that the Indigenous were doing. So this is just where it was at the beginning, versus that they had been caring for it when we found it that way. And so she suggests saying from a natural state to change it to its legacy state, which I totally agree with. So I did take a picture while I was reading the book, specifically of the terminology. And so if this is something that you want to look into more, I highly recommend reading this book, because this book is so good. But so the common terminology that she wants to change it to is from ecosystem function to ecological balance, restoration target. So these are a lot of words that she's using as an ecologist who's been trained and has an assessment plan that she needs to go and take with her. And so changing it from a restoration target to a desired ecological balance, or ecological stability to balance resilience, from the word management to caring, stewarding, balancing. And the entire purpose was to show that we work together with the land while also recognizing that there is a history at the land that we arrived to here as colonizers and settlers, and that we are bringing it back to a legacy where it used to have been cared for by the Indigenous, and we want to bring it back to that version of it, and not that there was nothing being done and we're going to bring it back to the day we landed here and that's just how it was, and as if there was no caretakers that existed here before us. And I think for me, as someone who is trying to work through being from a European family who is part of the settlers that came here, working through the concept of learning more about how the Indigenous took care of the land and what happened to them in our history, and taking acknowledgement of Canadian history is really important to me. But I loved that this book was a mix of ecology and plants, which I have a passion for, while also getting that Canadian history and that Canadian perspective from an Indigenous person was super, super valuable to me. And that's why I took so many notes and learned so much, and changed my perspective and put me in this excitement to want to try and find more Indigenous authors, because of how much I learned versus the dozens of human history books that I've read that have been written by most likely white men. So it's that one perspective. So I'm super excited to be getting a new perspective, and I'm just like hungry for reading more of it. So what I did also liked about this book is there was a lot of like personal story that existed with it. So there's like a journey she went on, and I learned about new places in Canada and more about our history. But my one and only complaint was that she lists a bunch of tribes and their names, but because they're not in English and they're in their local languages, I just didn't understand how to pronounce it. And I'm not even sure if it's possible to phonetically write the name of how to pronounce these tribes in there, but I do think that it would have been nice if there was some kind of phonetic description at the names of some of these tribal names, so that way I could learn to pronounce them properly while I'm reading the book, and just for my personal knowledge. But I will go online and just research it now myself. But I think that would have just been like a little bit nicer for me to kind of bring it all together, but it's such a minor criticism, I suppose. But otherwise, like, I cannot recommend this book enough. It is so good. It changed so much my perspective. It was so interesting, and I highly recommend this. I've told so many people that they need to add it to their reader list, and I think that if you are a plant lover or a Canadian or anyone interested in learning more about the history of the Indigenous people who were here before us, or any ecology from their perspective, like, I can't recommend this book enough. So 10 out of 10 for me, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know if you want me to do more book reviews. I read tons of books on plants and farming. I really like the perspective of farmers or urban farmers or anything like that. I love to read those books that are like biographies / like learning. And so if you do like the idea of me doing more book reviews, just let me know in the comments below. And if you did like this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you in this video here. Bye.